The book we're going to discuss today is How Brands Grow.
As an engineer, marketing was always a foreign concept, and this was a real eye-opener. Purchasing decisions ultimately follow predictable patterns. Physical availability, that's also a lot to do with the execution in stores, and that's something that we've really focused on to get noticed and be visible. If you're growing mental availability and you don't have that physical availability, you just can't buy a product or it's in the wrong pack, you're wasting money. We think that people are thinking about the brand every day because we obviously go to work and we've got BOS ingrained in us, but it's only in a split-second moment that they're actually thinking about it, and that's the moment that's important.
Welcome to the Non-Fiction Book Club. I'm your host, John Bradshaw, and we have a great show for you today. A reminder to sign up to our newsletter to always be the first to hear about reviews, interviews, and great discounts on all the books we cover. You can sign up on www.nonfictionbookclub.co.za. And now for our show. It is my great privilege to welcome Will Battersby, the CEO of BOS Brands, with us today. We've got a brilliant book. I'm so excited to have you here. Will has spent most of his career in beverage, started in the UK in the feel-good drinks company, then came back, studied his MBA at the GSB, then got involved in another kind of university, which was SAB Miller. And then back in 2012, he had the itch to get involved in something a bit more scrappy and startup-y, and he joined BOS Brands as their sales director. He's risen through the ranks at BOS. He's now the CEO there. He's been leading that business as it grows internationally, grows locally, grows into new products. And so just a brilliant person to have here to talk about the book. Now, when I asked you, firstly, welcome, Will. It's great to have you here.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Brilliant. So the book we're going to discuss today is How Brands Grow. And when you suggested this book, I was absolutely stoked because this book, I remember reading it when I first got my proper marketing job and I was trying to work out how marketing worked. And I fought with this book like crazy. Now it's become probably one of the 3 books I recommend to anybody in marketing. So a brilliant book, and was so fun to read it again. So thank you for a great choice of book.
Great.
Where were you in your journey when you came across this book?
Yeah, thanks, John. Thanks again for having me on the intro. I actually had just started at BOS in 2012. As you said, it come from SAB. And the book was on the desk. I can't remember who actually bought the book, but it was on the desk or in the office, and I picked it up and read it for the first time. I mean, as an engineer, marketing was always a foreign concept, hocus pocus in the air, how does this thing actually work? And this was a real eye-opener to some practical steps on how to tackle this thing called marketing.
Yeah, I wonder if it was an advantage for you as an engineer because you knew you didn't know anything about marketing.
Perhaps.
Like I had a disadvantage that I knew there were 4 Ps.
Okay.
I couldn't remember exactly what the four Ps were. No, but
Yes.
actually my experience of being in a marketing ecosystem with a team and an agency, that is relatively few people had a operational understanding of how they thought marketing worked and what you were trying to do in marketing. They had a sense of what they thought good work was and bad work. So I found it enormously helpful. But most people who are watching or listening to this won't have read the book yet. They will after our brilliant discussion of it. But do you mind giving a little bit of a structure of what the book is about and what's the concept in the book?
Yeah, so the concept is that ultimately, I mean, consumers are buying products all the time, and they're making decisions all the time. But those purchasing decisions ultimately, irrespective of the brand or the country or the category, follow predictable patterns. And those patterns can be scientifically evaluated, and the probability of someone buying a product is far greater to achieve. So it's not, and that's what I found difficult initially with marketing. There's so much information on what it is and so much theory. It's the 4 Ps idea that sort of gave a very grounded, basic understanding of what you need to do, what are the steps. And for me, that's the biggest thing that the book puts together. It's patterns that are predictable, and a formula that can work.
Yeah, and I remember being so struck by the heavy buyers, light buyers. Like you say, there's a predictable pattern that the bigger your brand is, the more you monopolize light buyers. And if you're a small brand, what you're going to pull in is your heavy buyers. And if you want to grow as a brand, it's likely going to be light, infrequent buyers. To remember wrestling with that, because my previous job had been running a giant loyalty program. And so I was a loyalty disciple.
Yeah.
So it was a real wrestle.
100%. I mean, exactly. So Byron talks of light buyers matter, and that Pareto principle 80-20 doesn't actually exist. So kind of getting the slap in the face on that one early is important. Obviously you have early adopters, and those are the ones that end up buying a large proportion or large frequency of purchase of whatever the product is. But ultimately, for brands to scale, you need to get those light buyers, and they buy you so infrequently.
Yes.
That was the big standout for me as well. There's like, if you were to just ask me how many drinks of BOS do people have every year, or even Coca-Cola every year, it's actually not too different in terms of the frequency of purchase.
Yes.
There's just so many more people are buying them in so many more occasions.
Yeah.
So I think for us, in fact, it was Pick and Pay that I got the data from. It's 1.7 purchases per year of our consumers of our product.
Yeah.
Which you think, yeah, that's not many.
And the corollary of that is that they're not that engaged, right? They're just not paying that much attention.
Yeah.
Right. So that kind of the fact that it's light buyers, they're not buying that frequently, they're not paying attention. I mean, do you remember any of the things that struck you early on the first time you read it?
It's the light buyers. Absolutely how little people are thinking about your brand. I always use the analogy that, no one's looking for dishwashers to buy until suddenly your dishwasher breaks. And then you just start seeing adverts all over the show. You see trucks driving past with a dishwasher on it. You see in, the local ad, you in that moment, we think that people are thinking about the brand every day, because we obviously go to work and we've got BOS, ingrained in us, but it's only in a split second moment that they're actually thinking about it. And that's the moment that's important, and not really anything else.
Well, yes, and
in general,
that split second a moment, and how you get to be in a customer's mind there. I definitely want to talk a bit about that. But I guess one of the controversial terms that I remember is Byron really hates differentiation. Hates us chasing after differentiation. He loves distinctiveness. Can you talk a little bit about that distinction between?
Yeah, for me, differentiation, and he does speak a little bit about the differentiation has a place. And if you read a lot of marketing theory, they talk about, to succeed as a brand, you need to be differentiated. And that, but to Byron in the book, it's about category differentiation and product differentiation, which was also a realization to me that differentiation can be replicated quite easily. It's difficult to maintain. Ultimately, for us, our product, the intrinsics, even though they are unique and constructed with rooibos and an ingredient and a recipe, it's immediately replicable, especially by a big corporate. So it's the distinctiveness of the brand, and it's talking about brands specifically, that actually is going to give you that enduring advantage. So for brands to focus on distinctive assets is far greater in the long run than differentiation. Although differentiation is still important, and it's a foundation to a lot of things. To give you growth in the long term, you need to be distinctive.
I mean, this is such a key discussion that I have with so many businesses as they're looking at their assets and their brand and how they landed. Because if you can be differentiated, right, it's in a way that's valuable to customers, that's great, right? But there are relatively few opportunities to be differentiated in a way that, like, if you have a business model that allows you to be the cheapest, right, then you can be differentiated. And for most people, they won't have that business model. So what they look for when they're hunting differentiation is the white space. And the white space is the place that nobody cares about. Customers don't care about. So in supermarkets, the white space is service, right? No supermarket, there's a supermarket that owns quality, the supermarket that owns price, there's a supermarket that owns convenience. There's no supermarket that owns customer service. So if you wanted to be differentiated, you could jump in that space, but no customers choose their supermarket based on that. So whereas distinctive, as you can see with the BOS brand, I mean, it really has been an incredible discipline. Is that hard to have the discipline to stay distinctive with the the BOS brand, but to stay with these assets?
It has been hard. I mean, we've had numerous battles internally around communication on pack. Of course, as an example, of course, our pack is the biggest piece of an asset that's out there in the market that most people see. And we've been pulled a lot to communicate more on the pack. Why don't you put low sugar on? Why don't you put high in antioxidants? Why don't you say this on your pack? And to maintain that clear brand look and image on front of pack has been a conscious effort and a fight. It's often why we've had, I've reiterated to a few, we've got an internal graphic designer, senior graphic designer that holds all of our brand together and makes sure that we don't.
The minister of no.
The minister of no on like.
The question is, can we? Then the answer is probably no.
You've got to hold it. So it's tempting, and those differentiated properties are on the back of pack often, or in other forms of communication. But to keep that asset clean on front is important, and those assets obviously are across colors, fonts, logos. So obviously for us it's the BOS. The color red is our color. Yellow is also one of the distinctive colors. The lion, the star, and then replicating those assets not just on pack but across different touch points is also crucial.
Yeah, and for me, the memory I have of the early days of BOS is every restaurant you went to had the umbrellas inside.
Yeah,
must have spent a fortune on umbrellas, but that was incredibly effective at having the distinctiveness of the brand.
And we often had again the same argument with a lot of outlet owners that wanted to co-brand. Can you put our coffee shop name on with your umbrella? And for us, it was actually we prefer just to have our brand on here and keep it clean, keep it in line with the assets. It's not that their branding was bad.
Yeah,
it was just we felt like we needed the BOS brand to kind of stand out in its true form.
And it is somewhat counterintuitive that adding messages makes it harder to be distinctive, makes it harder to stick in the customer's mind.
Yeah,
because you might think, oh well, each customer will find their message. But no, the broader you aim, the less traction you seem to get in customers' minds.
Exactly, and I mean, these days everyone is just so busy, so inundated with so much information. So making it very easy for people to make a decision on something is super important. And often that clutter can just make it another thought that you have to have, and it's just too much. I want to just buy this product and do this thing with ease.
Just make it easy. I think that's kind of the summary of the book. And what I loved is he split make it easy into mental and physical availability.
Yeah.
So you want to talk a little bit about these concepts of my paraphrase of this book is the way brands grow is by increasing their mental and physical availability. Just like that.
Yeah, just do it. Just do it. 100%. So exactly. I mean, I speak about that a lot to the team internally and have to remind myself. But so mental availability is the probability of your brand coming to mind at that moment of purchase. Like how likely is it that BOS iced tea will be the product that you will consider to buy in that moment when you're thinking about buying a drink? And we'll kind of go on to that. Which is different to awareness. Awareness is quite binary and quite singular. In I can ask you in any environment, do you know BOS? And you might say yes. Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen the umbrellas. I've seen it around. But it doesn't necessarily mean that translates into purchase. And that's why mental availability is so critical, because it's in that moment, that split second when you're making that decision, that you need the brand to be the one of choice. And then physical availability is the ease of finding it and purchasing the brand, just almost similar to what you said now. So it's not just about distribution points. It's about distribution points with the right pack, products, pricing, proposition, and we can go into a little bit more into the detail on that. But really, it's about being available to consumers and making it easy to buy.
These are such powerful concepts. That split second of I'm going to a braai, right? I need something for the kids, right? I think of BOS. Yeah, I think it's in the second book that he starts referring to those as category entry points. So how have you, do you guys think about category entry points, these moments that you want to have mental availability for the BOS brand?
We do. I mean, again, that's well, you know that people are only thinking about you for a second, and you understand that those category entry points are so crucial. It's just firstly then just like, what are those category entry points? So for us, it's it can be sort of environmental, like it's a hot day, I need to quench my thirst. It can be something emotional. The kids need a treat. I'm in that shop and they're screaming and shouting like they need a treat, so I need to sort them out.
Hypothetically, obviously not out. If ever you're watching this, that's not why we gave you BOS.
No, exactly. Those days are fortunately gone, and now they're thinking about other drinks in the shop, unfortunately. But yeah, and that's so those are the kind of moments where they might you might want to buy it. And also we've learned to really know who we are, and fundamentally we're a soft drink. We've got to quench your thirst and make you refreshed, and that's the number one goal of what we're trying to do. You can really get overcomplicated about this thing and think, we're gonna put rooibos in there, we're gonna have the low sugar, it's gonna do this, gonna do that for you. But fundamentally, when you're in that moment of I'm hot, I need to get something to quench my thirst, it's us that we want to know about. And the best in the world is Coca-Cola. I mean, it's they have done an amazing job at really linking those category entry points with their brand. It's a super hot day, or I'm driving into the middle of the Karoo and it's just hot. Like, what am I thinking about here? Or it's an occasion, family. They've figured out how to get that into a number of consumers' heads really well over time.
It's been incredible, I think, Coke, because they have, when you think about it, it's not obvious that when you're thinking of refreshment, you should think of carbonated sugar water.
Totally.
Right? But
it's a feeling.
No, but they've done it, and they started, and then they systematically, meals and Coke, happiness, Christmas, all these category entry points that they've got.
Exactly.
And then the physical availability, so that if you're driving through any part of Africa, but definitely South Africa, and you pass a little shop, there'll be a hand-painted swirl getting the mental availability. And when you go inside, if they have a fridge, it'll be a Coca-Cola fridge.
100%.
Physical mental availability link that they've just got. So
exactly. And Byron references it around Coke's strategy of a cold Coke at arm's length.
Yeah.
So in every moment, every category entry point moment, they want to have physical distribution that equates to a cold Coke at arm's reach. And that's just incredible. And as it frames so much around what the business needs to do.
What they've done.
Well, we need fridges. Well, we need great route to market. We need all those things. To get that, we need to build the capability in our business to execute it. And we try to replicate that as much as we can. But it's obviously best in class.
And the other side of the Coke thing, like right from that initial brief for the bottle, which is if you see a shard of the bottle on the ground, or if you reach out for it in the dark, you must be able to tell that it's a Coke bottle. That ends up with mental availability. You were talking a little bit about pack sizes with physical and mental availability. Do you want to, because it must be a huge choice to, you've been innovative in some things like the Tetra Pak. You came out initially in the cans, which were a little bit of an unusual shape for the cans when they first came out. Not everyone, Coke's copied you on the can shape. But how do you think about the pack sizes and new product innovation and what to do?
Yeah, so physical availability also, and I'll kind of answer the question now, but for me, that's also a lot to do with the execution in stores, and that's something that we've really focused on, is to be noticed, to get noticed and be visible. When we first got listed in Woolworths many years ago, we got listed with our cans. It was the first product they found. They discovered it at I think it was some trade show, or the Taste of Africa trade show, and they saw our product and they really, really liked it. And we got listed early on in Woolworths, which was a really big win. But a lot of people didn't actually know that we were in there. And when we list, so the cans are obviously an instant consumption or a take-home pack. It's not necessarily the most popular take-home pack. So the bigger format, 1 liter, 1.5 liter is. And when we launched the 1 liter, and it got listed in Woolworths, the amount of people that came to me afterwards and said, "Well done on getting the Woolworths listing." That's amazing.
You,
And we had actually been in there for 12 months with the cans, but we weren't available to that consumer in the pack that they wanted. So even though we were there on the shelf, they did not know that we were there. And that again struck me that you can be there, but if you're not there in the right pack for that consumer that's looking to take it home, you're actually invisible. You're not even considered, you're not even in the moment.
Part of that category entry point, I guess, was I would have got a 2-liter Coke before, but I'm looking to get something healthier.
Yeah, or Lipton, I might have bought Lipton and 1.5 liter. That's my normal drink. Now I'm looking for something healthier.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought of the
I don't buy
cans, or a 6-pack of cans.
Exactly. So that was astounding to just think about that, because then that also means that when you're in the stores, you can't have two facings. You can't have one facing and say, I'm here. No, because you're nowhere. You're not even in their mind when they're making the purchase decision. So Byron doesn't speak about this a lot, but there is an ability to change consumer purchase behavior at the point of purchase.
Yes.
And that's also something that we've focused on with the colors. That obviously it's big block branding and physical presence. And then when it comes to innovation and other products, we sometimes think about those category entry points as a kind of a clock, which is also a different way of thinking about it. So in the day, you have different moments. And in the morning, there's a moment where you might have a tea. You might have drunk your coffee, or you might drink a tea. And that's sort of, for us, our rooibos tea is a moment where we want you to consider having our product. At lunchtime, it's I'm going to have lunch on the go, grab a meal. Iced tea is obviously the thing that we were looking to have in that moment as a refreshing, healthy alternative. In the afternoon, it might be seen as a pick-me-up. That's often the moment, or you have another tea. You can have lots of cups of tea, to be honest.
I believe in that.
On the weekend, the kids are playing. You've got your 3-liter pack for family occasions or kids' parties. The cordials we've just launched. And then our most recent launch is the collaboration with Gordon's, which is an RTD, which takes us into a moment of, post 5 o'clock, where not a lot of iced tea or tea is drunk. It's a different moment. Of course, in the evening, tea maybe before you go to bed, but that 5 to 8 o'clock is a time we don't actually play or don't have a product available for people. So the RTD is a nice sort of addition for that moment.
I mean, I love the thinking. It seems like there's a danger in that you would always vote for more, right? You would just get more. Like, how do you keep that in tension with the fact that you do still want a big block facing? How do you stop innovation just running out of control, that you keep identifying new niches that you would love BOS to be playing in?
Yeah, it's difficult. So because you innovate, and the ability to innovate is one of our competitive advantages versus the bigger corporates who take a long time to get onto the trends of things. But yeah, it's a work in progress. We don't get it right. So we've launched products that haven't worked. We've launched products that maybe weren't aligned to the brand and the messaging and kind of keeping that clear, and they haven't worked as well, and we've stopped them. And we've launched things that have worked well. So yeah, we've also learned that BOS can't go to every category. We've had a sports drink, we've had an energy drink, but I think that what we have now is a good set. We've got a right to win in, obviously iced tea is our home, but we have a right to win in rooibos tea because rooibos tea is part of our DNA. And the cordials is a move into a very big category in South Africa, which we haven't been in, and we think there's an opportunity for a healthier, differentiated proposition.
Yeah. Well, I just love the survivable experiments. That'd be like, hey, what does it feel like when our BOS iced tea goes into energy drinks? Feels like it might be, nah, not quite. What does it feel like in cordial? Hey, it feels like we're authentic, but we're out there testing it a little bit. So
yeah, and we use South Africa as obviously the bed for innovation. We can try things a bit better here. We can get it to market quicker. But overseas in Europe, which is 30% of our business, it's just iced tea. We are just single focused on iced tea, and only the core packs, 1 liters and 250 ml cans. So that COVID did teach us a little bit around focusing on the core. So most of our sales is from cans and 1 liters.
Yeah, and there's analogy with how Nike grew its business, that it always, in each new sport, it always did footwear first, right? And then it got on to apparel, and then it got on to equipment.
Yeah.
So, which was its running, and then it took that to basketball and took that to golf. So your iced tea is your sneaker.
My sneaker, our sneaker, great.
Just a couple more questions. I'd love to know this. You clearly have BOS. It's a South African word. Though I had to be corrected from saying it BOS. So I found religion and started saying it right a little while back. But it's clearly resonated with South Africans. It's got some mental availability, physical availability in the South African mind. How do you have to think differently about mental and physical availability when you're launching in new markets? Because you're in the US, UK, a bunch of Western European markets.
It's a lot harder. Obviously, the amount of spend is significant with competition. So euro spend or dollar spend is huge. And I think that what we've learned. I mean, right now we're seeing some really good early traction in the UK. We've approached the UK quite differently to how we might have done South Africa or other times when we've been into Europe. And it's about being in the right channels and making sure that we're listed in the right stores up front. Much like almost back in the day, getting into Woolworths in the early days here was a landing with the right consumer in the beginning. Yes. And that really helped us. So in Europe, in the UK now, it's beachhead. Exactly. It's Whole Foods. It's Booths, which is a premium retailer in the north of the UK. And then it's also food service is still critical. So it's not the biggest volume, and it's quite an expensive channel to service in the beginning, but it's a critical brand building space. So building that
great
credibility.
It feels like people will take the risk on a new brand or a new drink in food service more than they would in retail.
Exactly. You're in a moment where you're also not necessarily looking at the price as much. You want a refreshment. You're on the go. You want something quickly. So you're going to take a risk, and it's cold and it's refreshing. So those moments are helpful. But at some point we know that if we hit that inflection point of growth, or we get a bigger retailer listing, we're going to need to back it up with bigger activations, like we did a little bit here in the old days. So bigger, awareness on brand, merchandise, classic PR and sampling.
I think there's something, certainly a lot of the brands I talk to, they think they've arrived when they get distribution, right? That it's almost all about physical availability, without understanding that, especially in like the Dutch market, the US market, the buyers are incentivized on newness. So if you don't drive the demand, they will say, okay, well, you're not new anymore. You've been here a year, so you no longer count towards my newness KPI. So, I need to rotate you through. And so that driving mental availability, almost demand generating at the same time as you get distribution, ends up being
100%. And the two need to be in lockstep. And we've done it other ways. But if you're growing mental availability and you don't have that physical availability, you just can't buy a product, or it's in the wrong pack, then you're preaching to, you're wasting money, you're throwing it down the drain. And at the same time, you can be in distribution or have physical availability, and people aren't going to consider you. And that could be the pack, it could be the price. And that's why I say in the UK, it's about being in the right stores, because although our mental availability in the UK is not as high, in those stores, people will look at you more.
They will experiment.
Those
stores creates mental availability.
Exactly. So making sure the two, mental and physical availability, are in lockstep is crucial. It's not easy, but it has to be done.
All right. So just to wrap up, what's coming? Can you share, without giving away the BOS secrets, can you share anything that you're excited about that you have in the works for BOS?
Well, number one, we're still on a mission to build mental and physical availability.
Good.
Because I still believe that is the ticket to success. And for us, in physical availability is some innovation, being in the right pack for different people, being in as many locations for people to buy. I think that we've had a channel strategy for the last few years, which has included, classic traditional retail, out of home, which is the food service side, and then maybe forecourt convenience. We've just recently added a non-traditional channel into that as well, because we've opened our eyes to where are the other touch points that people can enjoy the brand. And non-traditional retail is actually quite big. So it's, it's stores like Cape Union Mart or Cotton On or, Pep or other places where people are in a moment that they're going to drink or want to drink. And we're not even talking to those customers or even consumers. So it's not a slam dunk, and it's more difficult to actually make that happen because the space and availability is smaller. But it's opened our eyes to much bigger potential in South Africa for having the products available to more people. Innovation, the big growth drivers for us are within the core range. Our sparkling iced tea has been out for a few years. Our strawberry iced tea is doing quite well, pulling in people that prefer fizzy carbonates into the category. It's important in South Africa that the iced tea category is a strong and growing category. The cordials is a venture into a category that's almost 10 times bigger than iced tea. Yeah. So getting a slice of that with a new range is important. The tea, nice, like the tin. Thanks, John, for that. The tea is also a focus and that is 3 times bigger than iced tea. So it's really looking at bigger categories outside of our own that we can grow and scale from. And then overseas, we've got presence in a number of European markets, France, Netherlands, Belgium, but the UK is the number one focus. And then the Gordons and Boss, that launched a few weeks ago.
Yeah, definitely gonna try that one.
Yeah, so quite a few things on the go.
Brilliant. Well, look, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think the book is brilliant. How Brands Grow. If you run a business or work in marketing, you must read this book, even if it's just to fight with it. I think the concepts are so strong. But I think fantastic to do it with reference to the BOS brand, because you can really see the distinctiveness, how you fought for physical and mental availability. So just a brilliant case study in what good looks like in growing it. So good luck.
Thanks, John. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for listening to the Nonfiction Book Club. Remember to sign up at www.nonfictionbookclub.co.za to get our newsletters, find out about interviews like this, book reviews, and get discounts on the books we cover. Until next time, happy reading.